Hello everyone. Happy Friday. How is everybody doing today? How was your week? You can see here I have not cleaned up the ink from yesterday and I didn't get rid of the glass mat, and there are a couple of reasons for that. So we're actually going to use that today while I am getting things pulled up on my end. I'll give you a minute to join in. All right, let's get this all. I better turn my volume down so that you guys don't get feedback. Here we are. Okay, so if you are there, say hello, and it's all up on my end, so we should be good. Sorry for the short notice that I was going to come to you in the afternoon today instead of in the evening. If you are a hockey follower, you may know that there is a Canadian team in the finals for the Stanley Cup. It's not that I'm not a hockey fan, but I'm not super up with hockey. Like I don't necessarily keep up with it. So, but I do know that the Oilers are in the finals. So they have a game tonight, and I don't want you guys to have to miss out on what I'm doing here, because if you are a hockey fan, you'll be watching that game, not my Facebook Live. So I decided I would come in the afternoon, and then when I got one card done so quickly, I decided that I may as well do the catch-up card today as well, and we would do Projects 4 and Projects 5 instead of coming to you live tomorrow, because tomorrow we actually have Creativity Now. It is a Stampin' Up! Offered event, and I am taking part in that with some of my team members. So it would be not impossible, but a little trickier to find a time for tomorrow. So I decided that I would go live today with both of them. So it took me a little bit to finish up the second project, but hopefully you guys will like the techniques that we're doing today. So I have two fun inking techniques. One of them is going to use this leftover ink, which is why I decided I would just keep the ink here and use this today in the project. Whoopsie, we're going to move those so I don't do that again. And then we will get going. All right, so we're going to start with, let's see, should I do the simple card or the more complex card first? How about we will do this one first, and then that way maybe we'll get this cleaned up, maybe not. But I'm going to start with, hi Linda, how are you? I'm going to start with this card first, but I will show you both of them. So I am Alana Worf, Sleepless Stamper. I am in Winnipeg, Manitoba in Canada, and I am a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Stampin' Up! Has really great bundles and suites of product, and I have been using them lately to go live and showcase a bundle or a suite for a week at a time. How are you today, Linda? I know it's exciting there. You got some new product today, right? So this week has been featuring the Seaside Wishes bundle, and we are on projects 4 and 5. I did, let's see, I'll show you the first one. This was card number 1. I did a technique here where I inked tinted some of the enamel effects, silver enamel effects, and I daubered it onto these embossed areas. Oh gosh, what else? I daubered it onto the die cuts. Hi Marcia, how are you? You made it. So I had used it a few different ways on this. And then card number 2 was this really fun bubble technique. So I did some bubble stamping, and then I used the paper to die cut the sand dollars. I will just show you, I also stamped on it. So this was the result of the paper, and then I stamped the starfish and cut them out of that. There's so many techniques you can do with that, and I have more in the works. I have so many pieces of that paper. And then card number 3 was this one from yesterday. So yesterday was when I made this mixture of ink, and I blended it onto here. And then I also stamped on top of that paper yesterday to create these starfish. Now today we are going to do an ink to paper technique here. And I'm also going to use this mixture to do some embossing folder stamping. So I'll do this one first, and I'll bring this one back in, and then I'll show you guys. I love how simple this one is. I feel like I could make quite a few of these ones, and I love the black against the pop of color. I'm hoping to do a reel on this one as well. There's so many techniques here that I want to do, but I think I'd overwhelm you guys with a reel a day. Okay, so we're going to do this one. I'll show you all the supplies first. If you wish to share, please feel free to. Hi, Ida. How are you? If you are, whether you're new or not, let us know where you're watching from. It's always fun to see where you guys are from. So I have a thick white card base. This one is 10.5 by 10.5 by 4.25. It is scored at 5.5 and 8.25. Then I have a Pretty Peacock 4 by 5.25. I have a white that I've already pre-embossed. This one, that's awesome, Linda. I can't remember which bundle was in there today. Let me know. I can't wait to see what you make with whatever it is. I know it'll be beautiful. And then this layer that I've already pre-textured. Oh, I'm gonna need to redo that. Ryan actually did that one for me and it is offset. So I'll redo this one. But it is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. So I'll quickly recut that one. This one is 4 1/4 by 5.5, and I'm going to use this one to use this technique and die cut our sand dollars here. I have a 1.5 by 4 Pretty Peacock. I'm going to stamp the starfish now. Having second thoughts about doing this card first, but you just got the Seaside bundle yesterday. Awesome. I hope that if you haven't watched the videos all week, they are still on Facebook, they're on YouTube, so hopefully you'll get a chance to go back and watch them and use something or complete everything from the cards. So 1.5 by 4 and then 1 5/8 by 4 is the Granny Apple Green. And then I used the, Thoughtful Designs maybe is this paper called. It is, hey Ramona, the paper from the Thoughtful Journey Suite that has the, here I have a little piece of it. It's this paper with this beautiful silver detail in it. I used the element from the Cheerful Daisies dies again and die cut more of these. And that makes our little sprigs right here. I have also used a little bit of upcoming ribbon. This should be, I believe this is a release for the online exclusives in July, I think is where this one is from. Either that, I believe that's where this was from. It is the Frayed Grosgrain ribbon. I love this ribbon. Look at that. So I used just a little piece of it, and that is about it. So this one is actually a gift card holder. Just don't mind the embossing powder, or not embossing powder, embossing buddy powder on the inside. So I probably should have decorated the inside, but I didn't get that far. So this one just has the little pocket there, and I will have to, I have the starfish set up on my Stamparatus for this one. So I'm tempted to switch and do this one first, but maybe I'll have to just pull them off. What do you guys think? Should I change course and do this one first so as not to have to set up the Stamparatus twice? Or do I continue with this one? I'll give you guys a moment to answer that. And then, so what I'll do real quick, I'll give you guys a second to answer if you don't mind helping me out with that. And I will quickly redo this piece. I prefer that these two be centered on the width of the card as opposed to this one being off the edge. So I'm going to just quickly, okay, so if you say do what is easiest, I think I'm going to do this one first. And then that way I can do this and then switch, just peel my stamps off because I need to stamp this little panel. So we're going to do that. I so appreciate you helping me sort that out with a quick answer. So this one's super simple. I decided that I really wanted to try this technique. I told you guys yesterday I wasn't too sure whether I should stick with the same color palette all week. It wasn't intentional that I had already done 3 cards in the same color palette. And then by today, I just thought, stick with the same color palette. That way, if anybody has gone to the expense of getting the colors and the supplies, you guys can do all of them. All right, so we are going to do this one first. And sorry about that. I am going to bring in the inks that I've used. I have stuck with the same color palette, and I'm going to review these supplies. So these ones are very basic. We have a thick white card base. It's 4 1/4 by 5.5, or sorry, 4 1/4 by 11. I've scored it at 5.5. It is not 5.5 long. And then I have a layer that is, I forgot the measurements, so I'm going to just quickly measure them. was creating too many projects at one time. Got lots of projects on the go. Then this one is 3 3/4 by 5, and then 5 1/8 by 3 7/8. All right, so the smaller one is the one I am going to begin the technique with. Now for this one, I have set up this greeting here from Seaside Wishes. I also wanted to really try to make sure to use at least one other greeting. I have used the "You Absolutely Made My Day" quite a few times this week, and then I've used the "Just Because" from the Thoughtful Moments, I think, dies. So I wanted to try to at least make sure to use another one. So I went with this one here and just kept these layers very, very simple. No die cuts, just simple layers for this one. So I'm going to put the ink pads aside so I can keep this here for a moment. And I will move that in a minute because it's going to get messy. So what I'm going to begin with is my block. I hope this isn't one of the ones that we no longer sell. I think we're safe with this one. This is block H. Is anyone that's watching, can you guys tell me, is this one of the ones that carried over or not? And excuse my hand here, the cat clawed me yesterday. All right. So I'll repeat these inks. I don't think I actually told them to you. Lemon Lime Twist, Summer Splash, and Pretty Peacock. I think I actually told you guys Granny Apple Green, but either Lemon Lime Twist or Granny Apple Green will work for this. I think I had put Lemon Lime Twist back in the wrong spot on my storage, and so I grabbed this one, but I love how it turned out, so I'm going to stick with that one. So I am going to ink about the top third of my block with the ink pad, and you just go straight down, straight up, direct to the ink pad. So that is about how far down I went. Next, I'm going to take Summer Splash, and I am going to cover the rest. Now, it would be pretty tricky to get Summer Splash only across the middle of the block, and it's lighter than Pretty Peacock, so that's why I'm choosing to do this one next, and also why it's in the middle. It's kind of nice to have the gradient anyway, but there is a little bit of strategy behind that. So we're just gonna ink up the rest. Just come a little closer. There we go. Next, I will take Pretty Peacock, and I'll actually ink right over top of that with the Pretty Peacock, and I will do about the next third. So we have this here. Now here's where I need to move the card because I don't want this next step to create a huge mess on there. I'm going to actually move my supplies here as well. I don't want to get those all covered. And I actually have a spare piece of basic white handy because once I do this next step, there may be some left over on the block, and this was the second generation of the first, like my sample card. So I have an extra piece of paper handy just so that I can use it if needed. Now I also have a spritzer with water, and I'm going to grab a piece of paper just to shield here. I don't want the rest of my desk to get covered here. So I am going to just put up a piece of scrap. All right, so now what I want to do, I have my piece of white handy. I am going to just shield my work surface here. There's some of my sketches you can see when I've been, that was the one, the Global Design Project. I sketched out their sketch and then how I was planning to use it. Sometimes I sketch first, sometimes I just go right to work. So get to see some of the behind the scenes. Oh, thanks, Ida. I think so too. Stampin' Up! Really knows what they're doing with colors, don't they? I really need to learn how to use the color wheel too, and more about color theory, because I usually just play, but I'd like to learn about that. Okay, so my water spritzer, not my color spritzer, I'm going to spray this, give it a second and see how that swirls. And I want a bit more water. I want that to swirl nicely. I'm gonna just, there we go. Now I'm gonna quickly dry off the table so that, I thought I had a spare paper towel here, but I don't. So next, if you do this, have a piece of paper towel handy. I want to quickly just dry this. So now I can put my piece of paper down, and then I'm going to pick up my block and stamp with that right on my paper. Look how cool that is. And then, see, I have that little bit of leftover. It does create a little bit of splatter, but that's okay. I have this one here. I'm gonna take this little bit that's left over and stamp that as well. So now I have a second one. Now this I'll just wipe off. There we go. Make sure I get rid of all of this mess here. I'll set this one aside to dry, and now this one, you can also just kind of let that little bit of water around the edge, you can let that run into the block, or the stamped, if you call it that, area. Okay, so I'm letting that run just a little bit. Hey Cheryl, how are you? All right, there we go. Now I'm gonna just take my heat gun and I want to dry this. So you'll get a different effect every time. I'll bring this sample back in. 1 second. So here's my sample. I just want to make sure that's dry. So you can see this one's a little darker than that one. It will be different every single time. Now we'll just dry that. And so if I had gone with Granny Apple Green, that would be even darker. I like the lightness of this here. So I could also, I feel like I need to make more of this card. And you could always, if this isn't a greeting that you'd use and you have this stamp set, you can always switch out the greeting with another one that you would use more often. Hey Kim, how are you? Just make sure that is dry. I'm going to be stamping on top of this, so I don't want this to be wet at all. How has your week been, Kim? All right, I'll just make sure a little bit more. I could have probably, well, that's fine. I was gonna say I could have moved it over to the left a little bit, but it's good. Okay, so that is dry. Now I'm going to just use my hands to make sure it's nice and flat. Take any curls out. There we go. Now I'll bring in my Stamparatus, and excuse me for using this when it is no longer available. Hopefully you have one. Oh, that's right. Oh, how is she doing? Okay, so we are going to take this. I created my template in here before I trimmed down my paper. I decided to go a little bit smaller, but I can still center it within these little marks that I made and it will be fine. So I'm just gonna magnet down my base sheet, and then I'm going to, I went and set that on top of there. Did any of you catch that? All right, so we're gonna tape this down. And then, there we go. Oh, let's see. This one might be a little too close to the greeting, so I want to move that. And this one might be too close to where that little starfish is. Okay. Now that that's taped down, I just want to make sure that my base sheet is flat again. There we go. So I'm going to just take this off for a second so that you can see. So I have this here. So I have set up, I just want to make sure that it's still going to be about where I want it, so it's still all good. So I can fit the greeting. I have placed this star so that that little tail kind of tucks into that opening of the greeting there, and then this one here. But let's also make sure that they kind of fall, because every time you might not place your block in exactly the same place of your paper. So I also want to make sure that I like where they fall on that blended part of the paper, and they do. So I'm good to go. I am going to just use my Memento, and we're going to ink up. I'm sorry, it's a little bit shaky. We're going to ink up all of these guys at once, and then we're going to stamp that. I should have brought my pressure tool again, everybody. Thanks, Kim. Look at that. So I'm gonna go one more time. I can see a few little spots on the greeting where it's not as bold. That's the beauty of a Stamparatus. And here we go. And I'm not going to press too hard on the starfish because I like seeing the texture in there. So that is our card front. Now I think what I'm going to do is also bring in my Lost Lagoon blends. I did not do this on the first one, but my splatters are, well, you know what? Maybe I should leave it. I'm going to leave it. I was going to add a few more splatters just to tie into these ones, but they're kind of scattered all over. So I'm going to just leave that. So that is all the stamping there is, everybody. That's it. That front layer is all done, except for, of course, the embellishments and assembly. But isn't that a really quick and simple card? You could do a whole bunch. I could even use this one still. I'll show you these are the two that I got with the second generation after I spritzed that with water. And here are my card layers. So super simple. Thanks, Kim. I was very happy with how this one turned out. Sometimes you luck out and you make a card in about 10 minutes, and this was one of them. Not always. I was telling you guys yesterday, sometimes it takes me that long to decide where to put the embellishments. That's like the hardest part sometimes of making a card. So I'm just slightly distressing the edges when oh yeah, the sea turtle. I love that stamp set too. All right, so I was just distressing the edges a little bit. Sometimes when my layers are very simple and a lot of white on white, I like to texture one of the layers just to give a little bit more interest. Now I'm going to move these layers for a moment, and I have I had it handy to use. Maybe it went back in the drawer. Where did I put my stamp and seal? There it is. It's underneath those two little samples I just pulled out, the second generation. I have a habit of that. I bring something to show you guys, I go set it down, and I hide the next thing that I need. All right, so stamp and seal for that. Now I can just center this on the next size up of basic white. And I'm going to just use my bone folder and just burnish that down. I made a little fold in or bend in it by holding it like that. So there we go. That helps flatten that out. Now this is going to go on with dimensionals. Again, that card is so simple that giving it a little bit of dimension is nice. I like to use lots of dimensionals. There we go. So Kim, what time is it where you are? I can never keep straight. Kim is one of my fellow artisan design team members, and I can never keep straight what time it is where all of you are. So my apologies that I'm asking what time it is there. I feel like it's later evening, but I could be wrong. All right, so there we go. That is almost the complete card. I just need to add some embellishments. And for this, I used the iridescent faceted gems. And I used 3. I have a tip for you guys. This is another one of those, I could not decide where to put the embellishments. 10 p.m., wow, it is 4:05 here in the afternoon. All right, so what I did here, you can see I have snipped these right off. This was one of those ones where I couldn't decide where to put it. And this technique will compromise the paper a little bit, right? It's not going to be as sturdy there because it has been wet. It's dry now, but once you've done a water technique or something like that to your paper, the fibers are a little softer. So if I put something down where I don't want it and go to lift it up, it's more likely to tear that paper. And I did not want to do that. Sorry, I have the hiccups now. And so a tip that I shared with you guys the other day was that if you are deciding where to put your gems, sometimes I find it easiest to just snip off the ones that I want to use or that I think I want to use. This will also avoid you thinking that you want to use a certain one and then getting it on your project and realizing that's not quite what I want. So when they have a clear backing like this, I will sometimes just snip them apart and then play around with them. So I didn't start with these here, actually. I wasn't sure where exactly they were going to go. But now you can just slide this around. Let's say I wanted to play with it there, or decide, oh, do I like it over here? You can just slide that around on that clear backing and get a good idea of where you want to place that without risking tearing your paper. I need to remember that more often. It's a little extra work to snip them off, like with the backing, but it can save some agony in finishing your project and then tearing it because you want to move your element if you're like me. Anyway, I will often do that. Then I can just right in place, pick this off, move that backing, and stick that down. Thank you, Linda. Is that the tip you were talking about, Kim, that is useful? I'm honored that I could share a tip with you. There we go. And I actually prefer where I place them down this time. So I will go with that. There we are. So that is card number 1. What do you guys think? I hope that you guys like it and we'll give this a try. And I will bring in card number 2. I also hope you don't mind a 2-day or a 2-card catch-up day. Oh, you're welcome. I love doing that when I remember to do it, and then when I don't remember to do it and I rip a card, it's a little bit frustrating. So I was saying I hope you guys don't mind that this is a 2-card catch-up day. So now that I have done the stamping here and I've used my Stamparatus already, I can peel those the stamps off the plate and put them onto the blocks so that I can do this stamping here. Thank you guys for allowing me to switch course and do the simple card first and then end with the busier card. Just put those gems away. I was going to use them yesterday and then I couldn't find them. They had fallen off my shelf and behind a little stand that I keep dies in that I'm using at a given moment, or the ones that I use all the time and never go back in the shelf with their partners. And they had fallen in behind there, so I'm gonna make sure I keep them where they should be. All right, so card number 2, we reviewed the supplies for that one, and I will just do a quick recap. I will still have to recut this layer here. I didn't go do that before while I said I was going to give you guys a moment to answer. So we have our 10.5 by 4 1/4 thick white layer scored at 5.5 and 8 1/4. We have a 4 by 5 1/4 pretty peacock. We have a 3 7/8. Aw. I'm happy to enable you, Kim. I had somebody from the States, a demo from the States, comment on my YouTube from the bubble day and say, I convinced her and she went and purchased it. So I love inspiring you guys that you will use the product. So 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. Then this is the piece I'm going to do this technique to. I have the 1.5 by 4 pretty peacock that I'm going to stamp on. I have a 1 5/8 by 4 granny apple green, and then I have these 2 little sprigs that are cut from, oh, did I say thought it was Thoughtful Designs? The paper's not, oh, it is in here with me, one sec. This paper here, it is so pretty. Look at that silver detail. Well, it's kind of like an ombre detail, but like a foil detail on the paper. It is called Thoughtful Designs, and it's 12 by 12. So you can get lots of these little sprigs. And if you try other color palettes, I was really tempted to do one with corals and like some coral or pink and misty moonlight, which would be super cool with this color that's in the pack. So you get some petunia pop and some, I think it's maybe flirty flamingo or Cajun craze, I'm not too sure. And then that purple that's in there too, if you can see that. So you could do a lot of beautiful things with that paper. Okay, and then I just need to quickly do I'll actually do it when I'm doing this technique here. I don't need to stop and do that first. So I need this one here. This is the one we're gonna do a technique to, and this one here. And I also have a scrap of Pretty Peacock that I am going to stamp that greeting on. Now, I think my scraps got tucked away. I dropped a cutting plate on the floor. Alrighty, so let me just see if my greeting will fit on this one here. There it is. That will fit. So I'll use this as my scrap for the greeting. Okay, so I'll stamp the starfish first, and then we will do the other. So I need to take the starfish. Do you know how many times I called these seahorses today? In this week, I mean. I keep calling them seahorses. So I should clean these off first. This is how I end up with ink all over my hands, everybody. I just get anxious to stamp and I don't clean them off first. I just pick them off the block and don't stop to actually wipe them off with a chamois first. And then all these inking techniques I've been doing this week, I managed to get most of it from underneath my fingernails, but there's still some there. Between that and gardening, you get pretty messy. So a little tip for you. I saw this on one of our demonstrator pages earlier that somebody was having this trouble, not with this stamp set, but with Beach Day. And I almost commented with this tip, but a couple of other people already had, so I didn't need to. But the first time I stamped with this, I just took my stamp like this and I placed it on the block. So let me find a block and show you. I just took my stamp and I placed it on the block. But you can see there, that curled this little arm of the starfish. So when I went to die cut it, I actually have the samples right here. When I went to die cut it, you can see that they're not very well lined up because it's pliable. And if you don't put it on your block in exactly the alignment of the die, it's not gonna cut evenly. So a tip for you is to just let it go face down, and that way I'm not bending it. I'm just kind of letting it fall face down, and then you can pick it up with your block and now it should line up. You can also do a test run where you can use a negative space. I don't know that you think I would have many of them from all the stamping I've been doing. You know what? I'll have one here from my little samples I was showing you. Sorry for the mess here. So if I were to take my negative space here, I could also put this face down in there. That's not the right way. That one goes like this. So I could also go face down in the die and then pick it up this way. Or I could do a test stamp, then line up my, just like you would line up in the Stamparatus, stamp it, pretend I have a sheet here. You could stamp on your sheet. I will just stamp one. How about that? And I'll actually show you. You just need a scrap sheet for this, so I'm not going to use anything fancy. I am going to stamp with Pretty Peacock next, so I will just do this in Pretty Peacock. So I could do a test stamp. And then I could take my die cut, the negative space, and make sure that it's even. And if it is, then you know you're good to go. You have applied it onto your block evenly and it will die cut nicely. So I hope those tips help you guys. It's super frustrating when you've used your paper and you go to die cut it and it doesn't line up, especially if it's that large image that is in the Beach Day. It was like the little beach house with the ramp. And if you, because it's so pliable, you don't want to waste that paper. All right, so hopefully that helps. I'm just going to continue using this scrap of paper, and I'll bring this back in here and I'll try to mimic that somewhat. This is actually a piece when day one, I made this card here, and my first go at it, I actually didn't like the placement of the starfish. and I tried to fix one and I smudged it. So this is actually the other half, the half that was good. I just cut it off and reused it today. I told you guys I might do a mashup of leftovers, and this is kind of that. It's a mashup of like this leftover and that piece that was left sitting on my desk. So we're gonna try to mimic this somewhat. We'll see how close I get. No promises. And it's partly hidden behind there, so I can't see how all of them were placed. There we go. Because this is a smaller piece I'm working with too, I have a little bit more flexibility to tuck these little partial images in as well. There we go. And I'll try to place some of these bigger ones there. And there, that'll do. All right, so that is that stamping. And okay, we're gonna put this away. Oh, thanks, Kim. Hi, Mary. Okay, so that is all of the stamping I need to do with Pretty Peacock, so we can put this away. Now I am going to bring in my embossing folder and the die. So if you were not here yesterday, I want to just explain how I made this ink mixture. I decided not to redo it today. I will try to redo it on a reel for you guys. And so I wanted to use some of this up. So what I'm going to do, there are two sides to this folder. Now, I was going to start by using, I feel like I should try this the other way this time. Okay, so on the first go at this, I actually inked up the debossed side because I could, so in this side here, this is the part that is, so this would create the debossed side of your paper. It's actually the raised side of the folder. So because it's the raised side of the folder, and if you were to tap your ink pad over that, that would be the side that the ink would take easier to without making as much of a mess. But, and then this is the debossed, like the dipped in side of your folder. But because I'm using daubers, it will actually let me, I can get into that area. So I'm going to try that this time instead of inking this side. So you can see here that I inked this side the first time. There's a little bit of remnants left on there. So this time I'm going to actually go for this side. This mixture was a mix of, I have them here, so I'm just going to show them to you real quick. I put a little droplet of white craft ink on my glass mat, and then I did the same process here per color. So I put about 4 drops of re-inker. I started off with 2 and it wasn't as bold as I wanted. So I put the white and then the colored re-inker, and then I just used one of my palette knives and mixed it up. And then I did the same thing for the next color, which was Summer Splash, and then the same thing for the next color. This one was Granny Apple Green, though Lemon Lime Twist would work great as well. So you just make your little color palettes. For yesterday's card, I blended those with the daubers. So you just pick up the ink and then dauber it on, like mix it on, blend it on. So that's what I did yesterday for this one. And because I had all of this left over, I just want to show you guys really quick as well that, let me see, I also used this mixture and an aqua painter or water painter and colored this in with it. So if you're really careful when you're coloring to miss the, like to avoid the stamped outline, because if you go over it, it's white craft ink, it's actually opaque and it will dull your outline image. So I was just careful to stay within the lines. There's a few spots where I went over, but you can't really tell if you're looking at the grand scheme of things. So I just picked the color right up from here and colored it onto here. And you can do that on colored cardstock because the white pigment in that mix helps the color to still pop on the colored cardstock. So this color palette is what I did these ones with. And then this is the Petunia Pop, Shy Shamrock, and Peach Pie. I started off with this one as my color challenge for the Global Design Project challenge last week, and then I decided to switch it to something else. So, but I still had this. So I'll do something with these, but I just wanted to show them to you while I had this mix here so that you could see some of the possibilities that you can do with this mixture of ink. So if you don't have white craft ink refill in your stash, you probably want to get that. All right, so now I will carry on with today's project. So with this leftover here, I wanted to use some of that, and I will have enough left over that if I don't like how this one turns out, I can just easily go back to the other side of the plate. But we're gonna start here. So I'm gonna bring back in my card, if I could figure out where I placed it, right beside me. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I did the large one with Pretty Peacock, the medium one with Granny Apple Green, and though this one is not on my card, I did do the Summer Splash. Hi Joyce, how are you? So I have a nice little collection. I actually started them on Pretty Peacock and they were too dark. I didn't love them, but they'll be nice on something else. So the same size, same colors on Pretty Peacock. I think they would be nice on Pool Party. So I might have to try that and use some of this up later. Okay, so I will still do the small one with the Summer Splash, and I'm just going to dauber that onto this part of the embossing folder. Again, hopefully I don't regret doing this side, but I can redo it if I don't love it. So we're just gonna dabber, whatever you wish to say. I usually say dauber, so I don't know why I said that, but anyhow, I feel like I might need to switch this to the other side. I'm gonna do this one anyway, and then we'll see. Okay, I wanna save some for the other side, should I need it, but this is getting pretty used up. Like most of this is just remnants here now. Okay, so I'm just daubering that on. Now, here's where I need to just move this out of the way again. I have my paper handy. This is my 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 basic white. I'm gonna move that for a second. This is gonna act like my shield now. And I still have my water spritzer here, but okay, I'm gonna spray that and then I will place the dye on there. This is the side that the dye goes onto. So we're gonna spritz this. There we go. Now I wanna get my dye in place. It's on there now. Now I can just put my paper on there, close this up, and I'm gonna just run and put this through my machine. So bear with me a second. I will be right back. So this goes through with your platform and the gray plate. Now we will see how this one worked out with, there we go. Isn't that cool? And then it's got this left over. So you could run it through again. You know what? I'm gonna quickly just put a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 basic white. And this time I am not going to cut, I'm going to just emboss. So 1 second. Sorry, I'm going a little rogue on you guys and I'm adding extra things as we go. So we're just gonna place this on here, and with that left over there, I'm going to run this through again and we're gonna see what we get. There, isn't that cool? So you could also use that for something. And then you could add a little splatter, or you could leave it as is. But hopefully these are things you guys will try and I'm not just going rogue on my own here for no reason. There we go. I might have to trim a little bit off. I must not have had this down quite centered in there in my rush to not have the ink go where I didn't want it to, but that's okay. I'll fix it up a little bit. So just dried that off. And I also want to, there's a little bit of water. I forgot to wipe the extra water. Did you all notice that and cringe while I was throwing those down on a table full of water? Now we're going to just quickly dry this so that these don't run all over. I think they're kind of fun. Now I also want to just explain what I did when I did the ink technique on the back. I really like that, you guys. I could also still run these through and die cut them. If I don't have a use for this on the whole background, I can still run those through again and die cut them. All right, so because the last time I did this on the debossed side, what I did then, because these do curl in this direction, so what I did that time was I just took my bone folder and curled them the other way once they were dry to get them to go the way that I wanted them to. So I'm gonna let these dry. I'll bring the card back in here for a moment. I will use my heat gun to dry these, and look, I still have some left, so I can do this again. I'm gonna dry this. I'm gonna try to dry from the back. Now the last time, because I did this on the debossed side, the actual little star in the middle is raised. So the part I'm gonna do next took a little bit better to that than it might on this one, but we'll see how it goes. And I just want this to dry before I do that next part, without burning my fingers. Now, this one's so pretty, it's kind of too bad I'm not using that one. I could use it on the inside. I won't right now, but I could do that. Okay, so let's focus on these ones. Try not to burn my fingers off. Have you all seen that meme that is, I'm a crafty girl. Something about craft until my fingers fall off, and then I grab my hot glue gun and glue those babies back on and keep crafting. I feel like that sometimes, but in a good way. So again, I'm gonna just even this out. I must have moved the die a little off center. So if you ever do that, don't throw your piece away. Just correct it a little bit if you can. So that's better. So I'm good with that. I'll go ahead with that. So just trim that little bit off so it's not so off center. Now I'm going to take this, and you can see here that I've accentuated that little detail in the middle. So I'm going to just be careful as I can, and just very gently. I am just trying to barely drag this over. You can see I accidentally smeared it there. So I'm just barely dragging this over that detail. On the other side, here I'll show you on the other side. It's not gonna, you won't see it from the front, but look on the back side, it takes a little bit better. Look at the detail on the back. Oh, sorry. But I think it's still pretty with how that is. Hopefully whoever gets the card thinks so too. Now the green, I'm just gonna do the same. I probably didn't even need to get that much because I just want to be careful. There we go. So if you are in Canada, are you watching the Oilers game tonight? Or if you're in the US, are you watching the Florida game tonight? There we are. So now the middle is a little bit more accentuated. And I think it's just fine on this side too. Though I'm going to leave it, but I could also choose to ink the edges a little bit. I think because this was on the debossed side, the ink kind of just pooled to the edges a little bit, and you can really see that edge nicely, but I don't think I want to mess with it. So we'll just leave it as is. So we're going to put these aside. I've stamped those layers. Now I need to stamp my greeting, and I also need to do this layer. I don't think I want to use this one. I think that this will distract too much. This is the direction. Plus, I think I really want to try, it would actually be kind of pretty if I did use this, but I think I'm going to leave it. Let's see what these little sprigs Where did I put them? There, right here in the stack of supplies. So, oh, it is pretty, but I think I'm gonna stick with plain white. What do you guys all think? I think I'll go to the plain white, but I think I might need to make another one and use that. So I just need to quickly cut down my white layer to 3 7/8 by 5 1/8, and I will quickly run that through. Now, I might need to quickly clean this off because it does still have some ink on there. I almost kind of want to leave it. Should I just leave it, everybody? And let there be a little, I'll give you guys a second to answer. Should I clean this ink off, or should I leave it and let there be a little bit of ink in that background? I'll give you a few seconds to answer and give me some feedback before I go ahead and roll that through. I've cut it down to the right size, so now I'll wait a moment and see what your thoughts are. And hopefully somebody has an opinion. I appreciate the help. I'll just have a sip of water while I give you guys a moment. Maybe I'll stamp the greeting while you guys help me decide. So I'm just moving that aside for a moment. I am going to bring in my embossing buddy. Sorry for my reach. Now I have my greeting and Versamark handy, and let me know your thoughts on that embossing folder. We're just going to stamp this here, and I'm not concerned about a lot of extra room. I just need enough room for the greeting because I'm going to fussy cut it. Clean it off. All right, thank you, Marcia, for helping. I will quickly do this one here. I'm looking forward to stamping with you tomorrow, Marcia. Ryan will probably be busy outside doing yard work. We have so many projects to do. That is in part what we may go do tonight. Okay. So that is, oh, let me make sure. Yep, just gotta heat set this. I can't wait to make something with that new bundle too. I haven't had a chance to play with it. Of course, I expedited it so that it would get here as fast as possible. And though I have used the linen thread, so I haven't entirely not used it. So I can't say that, but I haven't made anything particularly with the stamps and dies. Okay, so that's embossed. I'm going to run that piece through and be right back. Well, I'm here. I'll be off camera for a moment. Okay, so we have got the folder and cardstock. 1 second. I might do two. I think I will do one of each. And then that way I'll have them to use, and hopefully I'll actually get them onto a project. Okay, so there's the one with the little bit. It hardly did anything. Now I'm going to, I think if I would have spritzed it or something like that, then it would have maybe had, there we go. So it should be all good. I just wiped that clean with my chamois. And let's see what the backside looks like. There is still craft ink on the backside from the technique I did for you guys. Okay, so we're just gonna dry this off real quick because now that it's wet, it will certainly transfer the color. Okay. Now I have one more piece of paper and we will run this through. Marsha, did say you have this bundle too? I can't remember. All right, there we are. So I will use the plain white one. Okay, so we've got this, and I'll bring back in my supplies now that this one is embossed, a little more centered, and I will fussy cut my greeting. Can you guys ever be bothered to fussy cut greetings? I know it's a little bit of a pain, but I do love the result when I do that. So, hey Audrey, how are you doing? I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow too. Got a few of you who will be here with me tomorrow. Okay, so when I fussy cut, I tend to snip a little closer first. Don't mind me just hacking this. Don't you love that sound? If you ever watched Mr. Dress Up, I don't know if you all had Mr. Dress Up where you are, but it reminds me of Mr. Dress Up. Okay, so I just do a straight snip, and then I just start doing little curves. They're not exactly aligned with the letters, but roughly, and I don't think anyone would ever know. It's between me and all of you who watch, and anyone that comes to class. Okay. So then I can just do a straight line out. That's garbage. And then straight up. The boys are off to Ethan just got home from an appointment, and now they are off to their costume fitting for the musical that they're doing in November. They are doing Seussical the musical. If you are local and you like musicals, you should come watch. They do such a great job. I'm not just biased. This theater program is run by the director of the Divisional Musical Theater, and they do so good. It's enjoyable to watch. So Ethan will be Horton, and Lennon, this one's going to go a little closer, will be a Who. Ethan has played Horton before, actually, under the same director when she was doing well, she still does the divisional program. The boys have just aged out of it. And so Ethan's very excited to reprise his role as Horton. And I think, well, for sure, Lennon's excited to be a Who again. And Lennon just auditioned yesterday, I think it was, that I drove him to his audition. Day before, I don't remember. Day before, maybe. For being done school now, he's actually had quite a few appointments at the school for grad committee, his audition, and then taking in, and when he was at grad committee, he got invited to actually go to this year's grad as an observer, to bring information back for grad committee for next year. So he's been at school a lot extra this week, and super exciting for him. So I actually have one more step. We're going to move these a little bit out of the way, and I'm going to splatter these two layers just a little bit with my Pretty Peacock blends. Now this tip is already pretty damaged, so but I'm still going to use the bone folder. And doing this will help prevent that from happening, because if you flick that in the marker tip, like this is how we used to always do this, and you can see what it's done. But, and I should put a mat underneath here, but it's fine. It'll just wipe off of my glass mat with some 99% rubbing alcohol. So if you're splattering blends and you have a glossy surface, 99% rubbing alcohol will get rid of that for you. All right, so I'm going to distress the edges of both of these a little bit with my scissors. That just gives it a little bit more detail. I'm not going to do the top and bottom of this one, just the sides. And then this one, I'm going to do all of it, but I just need to be careful not to tear where I get into this detail here. So I try to hold my paper as flat as I can. That also helps it from bending and tearing. There we go. So just a little bit. And now we can start on some assembly. So I'm going to glue the white to the Pretty Peacock and the Pretty Peacock to the Granny Apple Green. I feel ridiculous. I should have taken these off, but I was trying to type last night and the cat was beside me getting all over everything. So Ryan tried to like make her lay down and my hand was under her and she put her claws out. So she got me. All right. Now I am going to not use the Tombow on this one. I'm going to use my, not tear and tape, my gosh, guys, I can't call anything the right name today. My Stamp & Seal Plus. Do any of you use Stamp & Seal? Hi, Alexina. Now, I just need to, this, I have a little bit over the edge here. So if that ever happens to you, don't worry. You can just fold that back over. So there's just a little bit of Stamp & Seal. Same thing if you have a little tear and tape over the edge, just fold it back underneath and then you're good. So you don't have to like try to pull it off or anything, just fold it under. There we are. Now I also have another little technique I need to do here to create this gift card pocket, or if you're one who likes to write long messages in your cards, you could write a letter and put it in there. You could put a photo in there if you had something like that to give to somebody. It's not just strictly for gift cards. I have my, I know this is on back order right now, so I apologize, but if you have a circle or a label, it does not have to be an oval. This is just what I have handy. So you can just punch a little partial shape there, and that creates your little, oh jeepers, I don't want to drop that in there. If you were here yesterday, I did exactly that. It just creates a little tab there where you have room to grab whatever is inside that little pocket. Now I need to burnish this without getting it in the ink mixture. So I want to make sure that these line up. When I did this last, I didn't burnish my fold straight, so my edges were a little bit off. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to tear and tape these two edges. I hope you guys don't mind the little bit of a longer live today to get the two projects done. If you have to come back and watch the replay, of course, you can always fast forward. And oh my goodness, if you like do, I don't know if any of you have ever done like a double speed replay. I did that when I was trying to catch up on some content that I needed to watch, and it's kind of entertaining to do double speed. So I've just taped the sides. And then Ryan was helping me go back and figure out some things that I had included as a challenge in a video. And we had to just go back and review the criteria that I had announced. And it was the same thing. We were listening to me at double speed and it was just kind of ridiculous. All right, so I am going to, before I put this down, I want to just make sure, do a quick dry fit. This piece is a little bit too long, so I'm glad I am checking this first. Well, is it? It might actually be okay. I think it's actually okay. I'm going to trim this little bit of green off first, and then I think it'll be good. Okay. There. All right, so before I put this down, I am going to, actually I will put that down now that I've made sure that that's going to fit. This is going down with dimensionals. So what I like to do when it is overlapping a fold and I don't want any adhesive to end up on this half or it will tape my card shut, I'm going to just center this where I want it. And then I can see that the fold is right there. So I want to make sure my dimensionals are to the other side of that fold. And then that way they won't be too far over here to tape my card shut. Then I can just take this, flip it over, and center that back on my card base. There we are. Now I can take this, and I decided to center this on this piece so that it was centered within this portion here. And this is going to get glued straight down. I am not dimensionaling that one. So I'm going to use, there's lots of texture and layers here, so I'm just using a little bit of tear and tape to tape this down. All right. I don't know if you can hear them singing outside the door. There's usually singing going on here, and that's okay. I love it. Sometimes it's me, and it's not usually a complete song. We all joke about how my singing goes. I sing a line of one song, and somehow it blends into a line from another song. I don't know if it was on my feed or not. It's on my boys. They made a song for me for Mother's Day, and they referenced my silly singing habits. All right, so now with all of this in place, we can add all of our accessories except for the ribbon. I need to pull in, I have it right beside me, a little piece of ribbon. I am going to cut a clean end. This stuff, look at how it unravels. It unravels pretty easily. So I'm just cutting a clean end. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm gonna go further away from the end to cut a clean end. And then this is gonna get a glue dot on one end, and that should help keep it from unraveling. All right, so I want this to go to the edge, and then I'm gonna cut an angle about right here. So this doesn't use very much. There we are, and thankfully that didn't fall in my re-inker mess. So we're gonna take a little glue dot here, and this has got to go in the straight end, not the, I'm just gonna push that towards it there. So I've got a little glue dot on that end. I'm gonna set that down, and I need my tear and tape back again. I'm going to just take a piece about this long. I am keeping this glue dot side up for the moment. That's gonna go about 1.25 inches up. Now I'm gonna just place this underneath there. This is gonna be hidden underneath all of these other elements. Sometimes when you put a piece of tear and tape with an especially pliable ribbon, it will, bye Kim, thanks for joining in with me. When you do this, and then place a pliable piece of ribbon down, it'll kind of like, you can see that it's kind of puckered a little bit. So I don't care because it's gonna be covered with that stuff. But I do need to flip this back, glue dot side down. I'm gonna put that right to the edge. And then I can just lay this straight across that tape. And there we are. I might need to recut the angle there, but now let's see if I put that. That's at about the same height. All right, now I'm actually gonna add a little bit more curl to this. So you can just take your bone folder. It kind of curled the opposite way as the paper dried. So there we are. Now I will grab my dimensionals. I'm going to put these in place, and I just want to check to see where I put, there we go. I'm going to just put these, I did them in kind of thirds. Now before I peel those off, I'm just going to dry fit, get this one ready. This one is going to go down about, you know what, I'm going to just put this one this way. I'm going to hide that whiter part. It's fine. This one's going to go down about like that. And then this one's going to go down about like this. So I just want to make sure that where I'm putting these ones isn't going to overlap this one. Okay, so I've not stuck anything down yet. Now I can take these. So I have got my little sprigs that I die cut from Thoughtful Designs DSP with the little sprig from Cheerful Daisies. If you earn these kits from me this week, you will get the pieces in your kits. So you can, if you want to earn all of the kits for the cards I've been making this week, you can do so with a $65 order using this host code here, or you can contact me to have it go in with an order that I'm submitting. I will be placing one soon. So by Sunday, you can use this host code and place a $65 order. Then you would earn, I forgot to snip one off here, the supplies for this week. And I would die cut all of this for you. So you would still have all of the pieces you need, even though if you may not have this paper, you'll still have. I just snipped the larger sprig off this side. I'm gonna hold these in place, and we're gonna just tuck this right under there. Now I'm good to go ahead and peel these dimensional backings off and place this down on top of those little sprigs. A little bit easier than fighting with trying to get them in place after. There we are. Now I can place this one right in here. And then I can take my greeting and I'm gonna place it kind of right along the top of the ribbon. And I'm using little black dimensionals for this one. So I'll just snip a couple in half, or 1 in half is all I need actually. I'll put a full one behind this full part of the greeting. And then that one that I just snipped in half, I'll put half on either end. There we are. Then we can pull those off. And this is just, see, it's, there we go. I can always stick a little glue dot underneath there afterwards if needed. And I'm gonna just bring this a little closer to the end. I want it to overlap that little sand dollar just a little bit. So that's gonna be where I tuck my little baker's twine bow. I brought the bow back, guys. If you were here yesterday, I had tied a bow and then just didn't find a spot where I wanted to place it. And so it was still sitting there, so I tucked it in there today for this card. And so I've shared this tip all along, but when I am cinching back the loops of my bow, what I like to do is hold the knot and the loops flat between my fingers, and then you can cinch back the tails. That will help keep these flat from twisting as you cinch back, because sometimes you've tied the perfect bow and then when you go to cinch them back, those little loops want to twist, and that is frustrating. So hopefully that tip will help you guys. All right, glue dots, there they are. I have a little stand that I'm supposed to put them on, but I half the time forget. There, this time it's going back on the little stand. Okay, now I can just reach in here and tuck my little bow right at the end of my greeting. Hopefully I don't stick my hand in the mess. And now I have my flat pearls, which maybe they went back in the shelf. Yep, they did. At least they're where they belong. And I used 2 small ones in the center of the sand dollars. I disobeyed the odd numbers, but I sometimes will treat the bow or the whatever other embellishment you have like one of the gems or whatever it is. So I will sometimes consider this like I still have an odd number of embellishments. It's just one as a bow. It's something different. And sometimes that's just more pleasing than finding an odd spot to put the odd number of the actual embellishment. So sometimes that works out. All right, so that is my finished card number 5. Hopefully, if you are earning this week's kits, you like the cards from today and don't find all these inking techniques this week too overwhelming. I hope you don't mind that I came early during the day today instead of in the evening. It just wasn't going to work. Thank you, Alexina. To go during the evening, I just wouldn't want you guys to feel like you were torn between 2 things, the game or coming here. So thanks, Linda. Thank you for joining in. You'll have to let me know what you are going to be playing with this weekend with your stamping supplies. So there's card number 5. I will bring back in card number 4. Here's card number 4 from the start of the live today. Here is card number 3. Here is card number 2. And here is card number 1. So that is the full lineup. If you would like to earn the supplies to make one of each of these cards, you have until Sunday at midnight. You can shop online using this host code here, or you can contact me and I can submit it with an order that I have going in. You would just need to let me know sooner than later. Otherwise, then you would need to go ahead and do it online. You can, if you don't have the bundle yet, you can always, of course, add that to your order if you really want to get that to be able to do the cards. The bundles right now are 10% off. This one so far has still been in stock. There are some other bundles where part of the bundle is out of stock, and that means you can't purchase the bundle at 10% off. But this one so far is safe. It is 10% off already, and then you can get an extra 10% off with the 10% off on bundles for the month of June. If you have any questions, please message me and let me know. We will get this video posted to Facebook for the replay. We will also post it to YouTube. And I'm hoping that perhaps this afternoon I may get a chance to do some more filming of these techniques for reels. If not, maybe it'll be this weekend, but I'm hoping to add a few more so you guys have a quick replay as well. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. I appreciate you guys being here and watching with me. Again, if you wish to share the video, you are welcome to do so. I appreciate it if you choose to do that, but there's never any pressure to. So I will be back again with a new bundle on Monday. And please do, if there is a bundle that you want to see some samples with, please don't hesitate to comment. I have sort of changed my strategy with this. Initially, I was avoiding using the sets that we were using in Stamp Club, because just coming up with that many ideas, and then I wanted it to be more exclusive for Stamp Club with the ones that they were using. But then I realized it actually gives them more value to get better use or more use out of their bundle if they can earn the extra cards as well, but also just have more ideas. Even if they don't earn the extra cards, they can still come watch the videos and use their own supplies to make them. So there isn't necessarily ones that I'm avoiding for that reason anymore. So if you would like to suggest something that you would like me to try doing some samples with, please do comment or message me if you're not comfortable commenting. It doesn't mean I can necessarily do them, but I'm happy to consider them. And if they can work out with what I am doing or haven't already used, then I'm happy to consider them. So have a good weekend, everybody. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will be back with you guys next week. Good night, everyone, or good afternoon, everybody.